So with Happy Death Day 2U coming out in a few days, I figured I'd go back and watch the original Happy Death Day and do a quick review on it for you guys. So Happy Death Day tells the story of Teresa, or as her friends call her, Tree, who is a college girl who's kind of narcissistic, self-involved, and kind of stuck up and doesn't really care about anything or anyone. And she finds herself on her way to a party one night and she gets murdered. But the thing is, she wakes up again in the exact same spot that she was the morning of the day she got killed, which also happens to be her birthday. So this keeps happening. She keeps getting killed in different places, and she realizes, I'm living the same day over and over. I keep getting killed. I need to figure out who it is so that I can stop them and end the loop. And I'm not going to get into spoilers for this movie because this doesn't feel like a movie that was watched by a ton of people at first. I didn't see it in the theater. I just got around to watching it the other day because there's a sequel coming out and because of my channel. So I feel like for that reason, quite a few of you probably haven't seen this movie. So definitely not going to get into spoilers here. It can be very vague and do the absolute best I can to do a spoiler-free review. So here we go. Starting off with the positives. One of the main appeals to me of this movie is the kind of whole mystery aspect of it. Done really well. You get this girl, the main character, who is stuck in this loop, keeps getting killed over and over, so she has to figure out who's doing it so that she can end it. And she kind of eventually starts tracking people down and writing down a bunch of suspects and following them all day and seeing if they're the one that kills her. And if she sees them doing something else when she gets killed, she knows it's not them, so she can cross them off the list and over and over and over. But she realizes that she actually doesn't have unlimited lives, and I won't get into why, but it kind of becomes more urgent and more intense and intriguing. You're like, oh, so now we got a timeline. Now we have a reason to actually need to figure this out pretty quickly because you might not be able to do this forever. And the way that adds an extra element to this plot, I think, works really well. And there are also some really cool and unique and clever twists and kind of fake outs throughout this movie, especially towards the end, that I really liked, and I think they pulled those off pretty well. Jessica Rothe as the main character, Teresa, otherwise known as Tree by her friends, does a damn good job in this movie, and she goes through a really interesting and good character arc because she starts off as this person who, like I mentioned, doesn't really care about anything or anyone. It's just kind of, she's ignoring calls from her dad. She's angry, being mean to this dude who's just trying to help her and took her home and didn't actually do anything to her, with her. And she's just really she feels like the world is out to get her, which is understandable because she had this tragedy not too long ago. And it's really weighing on her and making her into the person she is now. So once this whole murder loop thing comes up, she kind of has to rethink the person that she is and how she lives her life and why she is that way. And she kind of has a newfound appreciation for life because this thing is so frustrating for her. And she's like, I gotta live differently. I gotta focus on different things so that I can really enjoy life, because now that I know how bad and terrible certain things can be, I really need to put things into perspective and enjoy myself more and be nicer to people. And the actress does a damn good job of portraying this very steady character arc throughout the movie, where she starts on one end and ends on almost a complete opposite end. And it works really well because it's so slow, and like every time the loop starts over, she's a little bit different. And I think the actress does a great job of that. She's going to get noticed at some point. She is someone who's going to be big in the horror industry. This is one of my favorite main horror characters I've seen in a while, so definitely be on the lookout for Jessica Rothe in the near future. This movie also has this kind of charm and freshness to it, and I can't exactly place why that is. Maybe it's because the main character is so awesome and portrayed so well, or maybe it's because it's a movie that's unique in a lot of ways, even though the main plot is definitely reminiscent of like Groundhog Day or Edge of Tomorrow. The fact that it adds the mystery aspect to it, and she's got to figure out who the killer is, I think was a very cool way of doing this, and the ways of different sidesteps certain things, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's exactly what's happening here. I didn't know, and I think it's a short movie. It's a movie that's got a few moments of humor in it that land really well. A horror movie that came out last year that really bombed with the humor was Halloween, and that's why I was so mixed on that movie. I think with the light moments, this movie did a damn good job, and it worked well with. This is a corny ass horror movie, and it knows exactly what it is, and I think that's why it's so charming and fresh to see a movie like this. Now, moving on to the negatives, I only have a few real big negatives with this movie. The main one is that outside of the main character, Tree, everything else sucked. And that's understandable because it's really only about her and her journey throughout this living the same day over and over. And there's only one side character that has any kind of decent screen time, but he doesn't have much of an arc. She's the only one that has any kind of arc whatsoever. All the other characters, the side characters, really feel like just plot devices. And I understand that was kind of necessary for the story that this movie was going for, but the problem with that is when the killer is finally revealed, we're like, okay, I liked how they did this, and they did a nice twist and a few kind of fake outs and sidesteps here and there, but it doesn't land the way it should because we don't really know much about anyone besides the main character. So when she's out looking for who the killer is, that doesn't add a ton of intrigue to us when we find out who the killer actually is, because we hardly even know them. So that's a small issue with this movie, is that the side characters really suck. And even though it was really based around her, there are certain things that would have worked better if we would have gotten a little bit more from those characters. Like I said before, this movie uses a lot of plot aspects from the movies like Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow, and similar to Groundhog Day, she becomes a better person throughout the loop and figures out how to be nicer to people and stuff. So there's definitely a lot of this movie that is similar, and that can be kind of a bit of a negative, but I think the uniqueness that it adds with certain aspects of the story, like finding out who the killer is, and the tone of this movie and the horror aspects, the mystery aspect, I think make me not really care that much that it's pretty reminiscent of other movies I've seen. It doesn't really bother me because it really feels like its own thing. There's also one more small complaint I have with this movie, and that's that one of the core plot points of this movie is never fully explained exactly how or why it even started happening, why it was the way it was, why that was happening at all. So even though it kind of makes sense for the story they're trying to tell within this movie, it doesn't, you don't like why did this even happen, and why did this even start in the first place? And I feel like that's a dumb negative to have, and that's pretty much it as far as true negatives, because look, this movie isn't anything groundbreaking. It's not great cinema. It's a fun, cheesy, but charming, kind of unique and fresh horror movie with a great main character who I think the actress is going to be big one day. So I really did enjoy this movie, and I'm going to give Happy Death Day a solid 7 out of 10. Guys, I would definitely recommend watching this movie. It's a really cool horror movie, one of the more fun horror movies I've seen in a while as far as a non-franchise movie, and it's probably even better than those as well. That's why I'm really looking forward to the sequel. And guys, if you can watch this movie before you see the sequel, go ahead. It's only like $1 on Amazon. Definitely worth it, in my opinion. So there you have it, guys. Have you seen Happy Death Day? If so, what do you think? Leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you like my content, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you get notified when I post a video. Please spread the word, and I will see you soon.